The history of the Wild Oats shop. It was the coolest spot on Main Street. The Wild Oats shop was located at 112 Main Street, Huntington Beach, California, right across from the beautiful ocean. Through the 1970s and into the 1980s, for a full decade, it was one of the defining landmarks of downtown Huntington Beach. We lost the Wild Oats shop to a fire on December 20th, 1985. This month marks the 40th anniversary of its demise. The fire was reportedly started accidentally by a homeless person. The loss of the building became one of the key forces that pushed the city toward remodeling and revitalizing downtown Huntington Beach. Richard Cardo Bauman. The owner of the Wild Oats shop, Richard Bauman, known to all as Cardo, was a stand-up guy with a great sense of humor. Fortunately, by the time of the fire, he had already expanded his shoemaking business and was selling at many venues besides Wild Oats, including both California Renaissance pleasure fairs. His shoe business continued for another 22 years until the summer of 2007, when Richard passed away. His death was a big loss to his family and to all of us who had the privilege of knowing him. Inside the Wild Oats shop. The Wild Oats shop functioned like a little hippie mall. When you walked in, Ocean Magic Jewelry sat to the right. Yvette's Bikinis was on the left. Farther in on the right was Reggie's Head Shop, managed by Cheryl. Near it lived Oscar the Fish, swimming in his big round fish bowl. The back of the store was filled with Richard's leatherwork. Custom handmade shoes, belts, purses, pottery, and women's hippie clothing. Behind that was the leather production area, where Richard, his wife Marcia, two different Johns, myself, and others often worked. The entire space was alive with creativity. There were 3 different guys named John involved with the shop. 2 were leather workers. The third was a potter who, along with Bill and a couple of other potters from Cal State Long Beach, sold pottery inside. One John worked closely with Richard. His wife Jamie visited often. The other John was nicknamed Square Nuts by Richard so people could tell them apart. Marcia and Richard. When Marcia first discovered Wild Oats, she was around 20 years old. One day she decided to have a little fun and belly dance in front of the shop, right at the moment when Richard first saw her. Marcia later shared, "It was the coolest spot on Main Street. I started working for Richard shortly after meeting him. He would teach me how to sew and make shoes. Richard and I lived above the shop. Every day we would go to the Sugar Shack for breakfast. The shop would open at 10. Richard and Marcia were married at Farquhar Park in Huntington Beach, surrounded by many familiar faces from downtown, a true who's who of HB business owners. Within this story, I fell in love with Joni Brosemer, the jeweler whose shop, Ocean Magic Jewelry, sat inside Wild Oats. She didn't just sell jewelry there, she made it on site. Many days you could find her at her workbench creating new pieces. In addition to jewelry, she crafted feather and leather wall hangings, feathered cowboy hats, and feathered hair clips. Joni and I lived for a year in the apartment at the back of the Oats. Often there were 3 of us, me, Joni, and my daughter Nicole. We frequently ate at Jan's Health Food Bar, located in the back of George's surf shop. By that time, Cardo had moved upstairs, giving us the chance to move into the back apartment. He was renting the entire building, upstairs and downstairs, and he was also renting and running the Golden Bear parking lot. Joni and I eventually married at Farquhar Park, just as Richard and Marcia had. Ocean Magic Jewelry became a family-run business, which we operated for 20 years, until Joni passed away in the summer of 2000. She is still deeply missed by all who loved her. Joni was also the poster girl for the Golden Bear. She put up their posters all over Orange County, and in return, we got to attend many shows, including the night we hung out backstage with Dave Mason. At times, we even helped backstage, like when we watched Country Joe McDonald's Child during a performance. Carol Babaraki Kirby, owner of the Golden Bear, was always especially kind to Joni. They were good friends. Before I or Marcia came into the picture, Richard and Joni had once been a couple. During that time, they picked up a little dog they named Toto. She became the shop dog and even had her litter right there inside Wild Oats. After Joni and I married, Toto became our family dog for the next 10 years. She was a good girl, and we loved her a lot. My buddy Keith reminded me how on any given day, you might see a surprise visitor wandering through the shop, a rock star performing at the Golden Bear that weekend. There were fun after-hours parties at the Oats, too. One memorable night, after closing, Richard, Joni, and I were sitting and talking when a riot broke out outside. We watched it through the windows. It was a bit scary, but nothing happened to us or to the building. Many of our friends wore Richard's shoes. Back then, everyone wore denim jeans, and Cardo's shoes were the perfect complement. The Wild Oats shop was always a fun place to hang out. All of downtown HB was funky, cool, and honestly, just plain awesome. We were simply living our lives back then, doing what we did. Only now, looking back, do I fully appreciate what a blessing it was to be part of such a wonderful place. Before Wild Oats, how it all began in 1967, the summer of love. I was 13 years old. That's when I first started making and selling jewelry. Love bead necklaces, which I sold to Carol, the owner of the Magic Mushroom Head Shop. That shop is also where I first met Richard. At that time, Richard had started his leather business, Leather for the Cause, in the back of the Magic Mushroom. I went there because my stepfather, Jim, wanted a custom leather watch band, which was very popular back then. The Magic Mushroom was located on PCH in downtown Huntington Beach. Years later, the same location became Things for Your Head. For clarity, Carol, who owned the Magic Mushroom, was not the same Carol who owned the Golden Bear. My first memory of the building that became Wild Oats was from before Richard had it, when my friend Mark and I sold self-made waterbed frames to the waterbed store operating there. Not long after, that same building became the Wild Oats shop. After we lost Wild Oats to the fire, Richard helped us get into the Renaissance Pleasure Fair, which helped put food on the tables of both our families. A final word. Thank you for spending the time to learn a little of the history of the Wild Oats shop and the amazing people and animals who came together there. It was a unique, vibrant, creative place, and those of us who were part of it carry its spirit with us to this day.